let me bring on director John Clayton Doyle, who's the director of I'm an Electric Lampshade. It is the story of Doug McCorkle, who's he's just sort of a regular dude who you might work with in an office. He's not a regular dude. He wants to be a rock star. And this documentary talks about his rise to being a rock star. It's a compelling, funny, heartwarming documentary that is out now. Welcome, director John Clayton Doyle and subject Doug McCorkle's here. Doug, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Your documentary is hilarious, heartfelt. It's for everyone who wanted to live their dream. And what's so fun about watching the doc is not just your reaction and transformation, but people around you who are your friends, seeing you in a way they might never have thought that they would see you. How did this whole project come about, John? How did you meet Doug, and how did this whole thing come together?
Doug had an idea to do maybe his first real desire to get into music, to do a music video with some of his colleagues in the workplace, in the accounting department. And I was hired for that project as the choreographer. And at the end, Doug was getting some positive response from that experience and asked if we could continue working together in terms of me coaching him in the arts, in dance specifically. And from there, we started to talk about what would come next, whether that would be doing more music videos, covers of other artists versus original music. And we had the idea that we would go bigger and create a short film. And what we knew about the short film is that it ended in some sort of performance, or what became the concert and what became really the hero of the movie. And it just grew and grew and grew.
We're looking at the website right now, which if you just Google I'm an Electric Lampshade, you'll find it. I noticed there's a quote from Film Threat on here.
Absolutely.
Very smart that there's a quote from Film Threat on here, because I think we saw it a while back, but now it's on, or wait, no, it's available on digital and on demand March 28th. So it's coming out next week, available for pre-order on iTunes. Doug, what was it like to have this experience documented?
Well, it was an amazing experience all the way around. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a more amazing retirement project than this. Trust me. But I had never done anything certainly this big, and so it was definitely stepping way outside of my comfort zone entirely. Being, a corporate accountant for all my life, you kind of live your life inside a box. And in order to learn to be a performer and learn to be a singer and dance, that whole persona has to get thrown to the side, and you really have to learn how to be vulnerable, how to take direction from people, how to listen to your coaches and take everything that's going on inside your head and put it aside so that you're progressing. And it's tough work, but in the end, it's just an exhilarating experience.
Well, let's go. We have over 700 people watching us live on YouTube right now. Our chat is on fire. We've been talking about Star Wars and Star Trek all day. So it's nice to get a break from these big franchises and talk something positive in indie film, because that's Film Threat is all about independent films. Let's go to some of these questions here in the chat. Solomon Thornton asks, how did you budget the doc?
Well, that's an excellent question. So as John said, we started out with the idea of a short film. And then as we got more ambitious and thought about it in a bigger way, we, of course, expanded the budget. But I think our ambitions certainly exceeded what we put aside to spend. And I think through creative thinking and creative just using the resources that we had to make this film, we created something that frankly, I think neither John nor I would have ever imagined doing when we started out.
Was there a particular challenge in filming the performances? I guess when I think of documentaries, I'm thinking 1 or 2 cameras. What were your thoughts kind of going into that?
Well, I think for me personally, the biggest challenge was learning to be a performer. I mean, and I spent John, of course, was coaching me, but then he brought on a host of other coaches to help me. And I had 2 vocal coaches that were helping me as well. So there was a whole team that were working together to get me up to the bar to be a good, solid performer on the stage. And everybody kind of pulled together to help me with that. I think the challenges for us, we filmed in amazing locations, both in Mexico City and the Philippines, as well as some in the US. And so we needed extra cameras for that. And we had 2 great production companies that helped us, one in the Philippines, and one also in Mexico City. And they brought on a team that really supported the small US production team that we had. And so it made it a enlivening and fun experience for all of us. John, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, certainly getting ready for the concert in a kind of crash course period, because honing your craft and discovering what your voice is as an artist doesn't happen overnight. So taking someone like Doug, who had a career that essentially is telling you that things have to line up and make sense and add up to a correct figure, unlearning that and learning that in the arts, mistakes are sometimes your best friends, and that you have to let go of your measures of what success looks like when you go into the creative world. So the whole film, which kind of has 4 parts, the first part, which is very clearly Doc, the 4th part being the concert, is kind of taking you through the journey, whether it's going to school. He goes to a school which is clearly a scripted kind of campy fictionalized world of Doug's crash course, which was going on in real life. So it was a creative choice that we weren't going to tell the story 100% straight Doc. We used a lot of music video style sequences to move Doug's story along, but all of those sequences are at the aid of not just telling Doug's story, but the creative journey, the thrill and the fear of going into the creative world.
I have a question. We got more questions from our audience, but Doug, how'd you get that body? Look at that.
Well,
that's not bad, sir.
Well, it was a lot of hard work, my friend, and also I give a lot of credit to my fitness trainer George Corso, who also appeared in the film. He put me through my paces. I've been working with George for 20 years, and we knew what the end game was, and we had to get there in time for the performance. So he pushed me through it, man, and it was he always mixes things up, and so I give him a lot of credit for it.
Cool. Let's go to more comments here. Davina Duckworth says, I'm an electric lampshade. Looks like fun. Lord Thoth says, truth. Love indie film. Fletcher Williams says, dance, dance. David Glenn asks, why the Philippines?
Oh, John, I'm going to let you take that.
We knew we wanted to visually have Doug look like a fish out of water. We wanted to take Doug somewhere that you could conceivably accidentally, something would be gained in translation rather than lost in translation. Where if Doug had played out this entire journey in the context of the United States, I think that journey is not as colorful and maybe a little bit harder to believe that someone in America is making it overnight. By taking it somewhere where he was foreign, it was like, okay, now we're somewhere over the rainbow. Suddenly my life in the accounting firm, which was kind of like Dorothy's canvas, black and white, now we're going somewhere super vibrant where Doug is completely foreign. And that was a metaphor for Doug stepping into the creative world.
I think one of the other things for that, John and I definitely had a goal in this film of being very inclusive and including a lot of different people in the film. And we had talked about that right from the onset, that we didn't want it to be straight, white. You know, we wanted to show different cultures and have different performers. And the Philippines was one of the ways that we achieved that. We had so many great people who were actors in their own right, performers in their own right in the Philippines, and they were following the same journey as Doug in the film. It was a great experience using all those people.
It's Okay to Laugh says, how long did the whole filming process take?
Well, we started the film in 2016. That was our first shoot. And our last shoot was in mid 2020. And then post-production took us all the way through the beginning of 2021. So good 5 years.
Look, indie films take a long time. I've been through the process myself. I have an indie film that I'm releasing next month, and took 3 years is actually fast. That's what I don't think that people that don't make movies don't understand. Like 5 years for a doc, that's average. There's another documentary I've been working on for over a decade, but this one I just did, I worked on for 3 years, and it's finally coming out. And a lot of that time is just like, it's like things that have nothing to do with making movies, like legal and distribution stuff. And look, you guys are shaking your heads. All I'm saying is I feel for you. I feel you for sure. Brock Samsonite asks, what are some of the hurdles of filming in a foreign country?
Gosh, I can't help but say I felt only benefits. I mean, number one is the locations that we found in Manila. We never would have been able to access locations like that in the US. There's so much red tape, shooting around New York. So going to the Philippines, working with locals there who knew what they were doing, we had access to incredible locations. Obviously, casting is something I'm really passionate about. So we were able to find incredible talent. Like Doug, they weren't pros. They were kind of striving for the same journey, striving to not be a regular, ordinary person, looking for their moment to shine. And so the Philippines offered that. And the same thing with Mexico, finding that concert venue where we shot. We never would have had access to such an incredible site in and around New York.
Cool. And Fletcher Williams is going to get the last two questions. We'll combine them here. Fletcher Williams asked, did you use stock music or created the music? And Fletcher goes on to say, are you still performing?
When we started this project, I never would have fathomed that we would write original music for Doug. And that ended up being the most exciting part of this process. We worked with a studio engineer named Larry Alexander, and the sessions that we had in his home studio were such a thrill. I don't come from a music background. I'm a dancer. I'm a huge dance music enthusiast, but we really had to figure out, what is Doug's sound? How do you give someone a unique sound that isn't imitating or emulating another artist? So that was a fun part of the process, but the film also does feature studio music that we did have to legally work out use of.
Cool. Well, I just want to thank both of you for being on the show today, talking about your documentary, I'm an Electric Lampshade. It is out on video on demand on March 28th. So next Tuesday. So check that out, all video on demand platforms. Thank you for being here, and good luck with the film. Congratulations. We'll see you in another 5 years when your next doc is done.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.